Welcome back. It's a tragedy that's come to be known as the lost flight. 50 years ago, a Continental Airlines flight disappeared off the radar over northern Missouri.
It was the first commercial jetliner to be brought down by a suicide bomber. And until 2 years ago, no one talked about Flight 11. KOMU8's Melissa Berman is here this morning to show how the work of two unrelated men brought together dozens of families to remember and honor those lost on May 22nd, 1962.
For years, no one spoke publicly about the tragic crash that happened over Unionville, Missouri. No reports and no information online. This lack of talk about such a tragic event sparked the interest of a young man in New Zealand. His curiosity led him to start a blog about the flight, attracting the attention of a Unionville historian and families of the victims. Conversations grew and led to families and friends reconnecting over the weekend in Unionville for the anniversary.
It was a roller coaster of emotions, actually. It was, you know, I had to fight the tears the whole day.
Flight 11 families and the residents of Unionville raised enough money to fly Andrew Russell from New Zealand to Missouri to speak at the Flight 11 50-year remembrance service.
So I feel like I'm part of another family now, so I've got two families.
I happened to get on his blog, and gradually all these families started to get in touch with me. And as the years passed, I become part of their family. And I listened to their heart-wrenching stories. And I would pain myself every time I heard it.
Our daddy had such a joyous life.
Dwayne Crawford was one of the first people to respond to Russell's Flight 11 blog, and together their efforts helped to create the first ever memorial for the flight just 2 years ago. On a stormy night, May 22, 1962, 37 passengers and 8 crew boarded Continental Airlines Flight 11 in Chicago, planning on landing in Kansas City. Experienced and respected Captain Fred Gray was in contact with towers to reroute the plane around the night's stormy skies. But about a minute after Gray's last communication, Plane 11 dropped off the radar. Original reports said storms caused the crash.
No way Fred Gray would ever fly into weather like that. He was a great man. He loved his passengers, and he did everything he could to save them.
But he could not save them from the apparent mastermind of the crash, a disgruntled businessman in a lot of debt, and who purchased $300,000 of life insurance just before the flight. The novel and movie Airport is based on the man, Thomas Doty. The FBI says Doty placed 6 sticks of dynamite in a bathroom wastebasket to blow up the plane. While the movie had a happy ending, the 45 passengers and crew who lost their lives on Flight 11 weren't as lucky.
This is Lake Thunderhead down here.
I remember things, you bet. You know, like standing about where the bus is, watching them bring people out, the bodies, and people running around like crazy. And yeah, I can still see that. Sure can. Sure can.
Now, right here in this field is where Ron and his father first came and found the piece of the plane after they heard the loud noise just 50 years ago. And this field is also where they found the body of the only surviving victim. The memorial has been updated with more information on the crash, and families gathered around for this year's service.
William C. Chapin.
Although there hadn't been much talk publicly of the crash before, it still weighs heavy on families' minds.
But it's something that is always on your mind. It's not something you ever forget when something that tragic happens. I mean, every holiday, every time that the anniversary came up, anything like that, it was particularly hard.
It's one thing to see the pictures or to see the newspaper reports or to hear the story. It's another thing to be here and to actually have a sense of you're at where it happened and it's not just something that happened somewhere else.
This weekend's event helped some to let go and others to reconnect.
The family was kind of splintered or scattered around, and now we're all getting back together and realizing we have a lot in common and a lot we should share with each other. And it's a wonderful thing.
Finally, wonderful memories from such a tragic event. Now, one family is going to plant a tree to mark the crash site in the field, and also Wiles' 11-year-old daughter says she hopes to come back and hold another memorial service a century after the crash.